Cool. Episode 5, Justin Spaulding Show. Thanks so much for joining us. The first guest, Nick Minogue, is here with us tonight. Ryder's actually got the technology figured out this week. So if you went to episode 4, I had to cut out like the first 10 minutes on YouTube, which I don't know if you did. You knew that I did that?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, because not 10 minutes, but maybe 4. We were struggling. So I'm like, all right, we got to cut this out. But Ryder came to the rescue tonight. Now he's breaking stuff.
No,
now our monitor,
we're back.
now our
We're
in-house
back.
monitor goes off, and so thanks for joining. How many we got live tonight? Right now, Ryder? 2,
3,
my mom and dad,
5,
and your mom and dad.
My parents probably aren't. Yeah.
Minogue's kids are watching.
Yeah, maybe.
So, no, if you don't know who I am, Justin Spaulding from Southern Wisconsin. Very interested and love being a part of the real estate industry here. We have 700 apartments in South Central Wisconsin, Southeastern Wisconsin. We also started a painting company, amongst other things. You can find me on Instagram. You can follow us here on YouTube. We're bringing this live show to you every single week, and then hopefully we can figure out a plan pretty soon here to start cranking out more YouTube content. I want to try to blow up YouTube a little bit more in 2021. And so, we're super excited to do this show. Ryder, 6 weeks ago?
Yeah, it was like a last second. I was like, "You want to do this? Want to do a podcast?" And he's like, 2 hours later, he's like, "Yeah."
So we did it 2 hours
here
later.
we are.
Yeah.
Actually, it was 8 hours. I spent the entire day
8 hours,
trying to
yeah.
set everything up.
Yep. So 8 hours later, we're like, all right, here we go. And so we just make it a weekly thing. So we got Nick Minogue here. He, a couple weeks ago, had an intriguing question, which we're going to get to in a little bit. Don't want to give it out right away. And so I thought, hey, instead of just asking the question like everyone does, why don't we just bring you on the show? And so I got to know Coach Minogue is what I call him, because he was actually my basketball coach back in, was that 04, 05?
I think it was 06, the last
05, 06, yeah, you're right, 05.
Yeah.
Fall of 05, well, late winter 05, early winter, or spring of 06. So I was a sophomore. So he was an assistant basketball coach, got to know him then. And so I thought it'd be cool to bring him on as our first guest. He's also Pop, what do you call your class?
I call it it's financial literacy and employment skills.
For high school kids, right?
Yep.
Sophomores.
Juniors all have it, and it's required at our high school in Milton.
Okay, gotcha. So he teaches at Milton now, which that's where I went to high school. You weren't teaching then, were you?
I was teaching when I was in Janesville back then.
Gotcha.
And so back then, what I remember of you as a basketball player, and I was thinking about it on the way over here, was as a sophomore even, you were very dedicated to your craft, and you know the details. You were a detail-oriented player, and
I would say 5'9" at that point.
Well, and I would say scrappy too. You wanted it, and
Yep.
so there was always lots of battles with you and the other guards or other players on the team when back in the day. And that was our last time we won a conference championship.
Yep.
In Milton.
14 years ago. It's crazy. But yeah, my favorite drill was, and we're always talking to our crowd and audience here about hard work and being scrappy and having a chip on your shoulder a little bit and whatever. My favorite was was it 3v3 rebounding? Remember that drill?
Yeah.
And there's basically no out of bounds, and you basically have 3 guys that are essentially playing defense, 3 guys on the offense. The 3 guys that are playing defense, there's a simulated shot that goes up where a coach tries to brick it, but I guess a lot of guys don't have to try to brick it. A lot of coaches could probably just brick it by themselves. Not you, though. Of course, you're draining threes all day.
No, that's not true.
But so the coach throws the ball up, the offensive guys try to get an offensive rebound, and then being a defensive player, you don't want to let them, so you got to box out, right? So that was my favorite drill, because there was never you played until someone got the ball. From my memory, maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah,
maybe it's just how I felt. You played until you got the ball, even if you out of bounds, people would push each other into the wall. I remember
and that's how that drill was. But the goal was, you want to emphasize rebounding, but you want to make it harder than it would be in the game.
For sure.
And we had a lot of competition that year that we were fighting against to win that conference, and then we were also fighting through the regional, and then going on, and we lost to Verona before the end.
Yep.
So
they were a solid team. So I played 2 minutes a game maybe.
Yeah, but
average.
You're a sophomore, A, and B, we need those people. You need all people on the team to make the team a better team.
Yeah. Yeah, I was much better at defense, much better at rebounding, brought some energy. But I had to be scrappy. I had to be just annoying people, because that's at 5'9", that's what I had to do as a sophomore. I'm playing, we had a big team, right? Because you had Nick Frederick, that was 6'7" probably. You had Brown, who's pushing 7 foot. You have, even our guards then. Taylor Rail was, 6 foot for high school.
He was tall.
For a point guard in high school.
And you had Keith, who was in everybody's face.
Yep, Keith.
Intense.
Yep. Jake Ledger, Zach Leonard. Who else am I missing from that team? That was a fun. I like used to dream of going back. Like I still think about 3v3 rebounding. It's
Really?
one of my all-time favorite like sports drills.
I'll remind the head coach about that.
I hope they better still be doing that, and I would gladly volunteer. And Ryder can come and we can get it on footage.
We
I
were
will
doing
do.
something similar to that, but I think it was either defense or offense could score. Like it was just first one to get the ball, no matter where it went, you just need to score.
Yep.
Get the rebound and score.
Yeah.
You know, the putback's really important too.
Yeah.
You know, get the rebound and put back.
I just love to be the annoying dude that like when I'd go up against like somehow get matched against Andrew Brown or Nick Frederick and just be like I would cheat a little bit. I'd be like grabbing their shirt a little bit like and just.
But
You know.
Nick Frederick was the master of body positioning.
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
You know, he could make sure that he was in the right place at all times.
And we'll move on really quick for those listening that like I don't care about Milton basketball in 2006, but this is important because it really built who like sports and athletics really built who I am in the business world because it just once again it taught you to be scrappy. It taught you how to like essentially like we bootstrap businesses right from the grassroots. I mean that's like the type of attitude that I had to have playing sports to be successful, and then the work ethic. You know, I was able to, which it's so sad to see when there's athletes out there that really have a big dream for after athletics and they choose not to go after it or go after it, but go after it like half-assed kind of, because you know as an athlete you have that mentality and the mindset to be successful. It's just I feel like so many more athletes or you know retired athletes could just flip that switch and just make that transition and have that same mindset work ethic towards life because they would all just crush it with whatever they would want to do. So yeah, but anyways, moving on, I guess tell us a little bit just so that the audience gets a little bit understand. I think we usually get 2 to 15 people watching live, but then we'll get like a few hundred views on YouTube after, so just kind of give people a little bit idea of what your class is all about, what you're trying to do, and because I think it's pretty cool. I've came back and talked there a couple times.
Yeah, so this is my 5th year in Milton, and we have a required financial literacy, and Ryder was part of the process of that, and so we require every student to go through financial literacy, and the whole goal for me is that, there's parents that are teaching the foundational things at home and having conversations about money at home, and some parents that don't, but we want to make sure that these kids have a strong foundation with money and make sure that they're prepared for life beyond high school and don't go out in the world and learn through experiences, but they've already been exposed to all the information and understand what to do with money when they get out there. And like my mindset's an employee mindset, while yours is an entrepreneurial mindset. So we look at money a little different probably.
Yep.
But we want to make sure they go out there, and Ryder, for example, if we talk about him, he knows how to invest. He knew, basically, because his parents talked to him before he came into my class. So he's one of those people that understood that, but not all of them have that.
No.
And then as part of my class, we have an academic career plan, which the kids are planning, looking at the cost of college and looking at how they can most efficiently do that, or trades, looking at the best opportunity for them so they can follow their passions and do what they want for 40 years that they love, right? And so they have a plan that they have to present before they graduate, and that's part of the class also.
It gets them thinking about it at least. I feel like so many people at least like they'll make a decision without even thinking about it.
Well, the goal is they understand the process so they can make the pivot.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So if a kid says, "Hey, I want to go to Madison," and then they get there and they're like, "Oh, this stinks."
Mm-hmm.
Now I have the tools where I can pivot and make a different opportunity out of my life and not make it cost me too much. Right. I got kids coming back all the time saying I shouldn't have went to college, or I shouldn't have went to this college, and now I owe all this money and I don't know what to do. So hopefully,
Biden, waive our tuition, please.
Well, I'm not going to go into that realm, but
I'm not either. But
so our goal is to make sure that every kid understands financial literacy before they leave, along with everything else that they should be learning when they're within a high school, getting the whole student fulfilled.
Yeah, and I think it's cool that, it just needs to be talked about more. And I guess then the next thing is like, also, I think it needs to be talked about more, but then also like, so where do you get like most of your ideas or information and stuff like that, just out of curiosity?
Well, I've had a lot of good mentors over the years, like of people that have helped me to understand things. And really, I didn't know a lot. I watched my parents, right? My parents were both working employees, and I watched my dad, and I asked him questions that I got through life. But a lot of times they sent me out there to the wolves. Like if I went to buy insurance the first time, and they're like, "Hey, go see this guy," and like I had no idea what the guy was saying. And I didn't have a class to tell me what he was saying. So now my kids leave the class, and they should have an opportunity to understand that. But like Dave Ramsey, you could pull information from. There is a free company that builds curriculum. It's a nonprofit organization out of San Francisco called Next Generation Personal Finance, and I get a lot of information from them. But my father-in-law, just different people that I've experienced in my life that are, I don't know, I look at them and I say they have the things that I want in life. Like, they know how to invest. I should probably learn from them and then do what they did. And if they had success, then I should be successful. So that's where I got a lot of my information.
Cool. And that's always interesting too, because like where I think a lot of people can really go wrong is, I think when when people first start learning, which this is cool that you start kids when they're 16, 17, 18 because they're first starting to learn. I think it's important to cast as wide of a net as possible almost. And what I mean by that is as many like width, right? So more topics and just like more generally just general based topics, not like crazy specific. And I think what's important from that point though is when people, this was important for me because when I first started it was that wide net that I would just read whatever. But I'm to the point now where I'm like, if I start reading something, I'm like, this is not I know this is not what I need. This is not the path I'm going down. This goes against all the advice that I've really listened to that's been successful for me. I don't need this.
You gotta hold the weeds.
Yes, and I think some people will just pick up any book and then just try to implement everything. But what people really need to do is sometimes they need to take like this part and this part and this part and then their own experience and mix that together, and that's their recipe to have success versus necessarily, but then also say, hey, no, I don't need to pick anything from this book. I don't need to take any of that guy's knowledge because that's not, so like Dave Ramsey and me do not click.
Well, and Dave Ramsey and
but
my
he
class
works for
don't
some
click
people
either because like I feel like it's almost like too conservative for kids that they still want to have some fun, right? So we like you can't do everything paying cash
or get real estate. Like if I listened to straight up Dave Ramsey, I would have 0 apartments.
Fair enough. Yeah.
So I can't. So for me, anytime Dave posts something on my Facebook and it comes through, I just like I'll like chime into the conversation just to see what other people will say and stuff. A lot of people agree with me. Where I kind of battle Dave a little bit, so we kind of, and he doesn't know who I am, obviously.
There's bits and pieces though that make sense.
For sure, and there's bits, and I think it also depends where you're at in your journey and what your goals are too, right? I mean, everyone has different goals.
A kid shouldn't need
right?
Dave Ramsey if they don't have the financial issues up front, right? If you have financial issues and you don't know how to get out of it, that's a good system for people to get out of a lot of craziness in their life.
Right.
Train wrecks.
So that's just kind of like high level. That's what Coach Minogue does at school, and I have a lot of respect for him. And I've been into the class a couple times to talk. That's actually how I met Ryder, our content guy / sales rep now, doing a little bit of everything here at Spaulding Group and Prime Painters. But that's how I met Ryder, and then Ryder decides, hey, I'm goes through this class, and here's my story, and here's other people's story, and he, Ryder made like $30,000 playing video games on Twitch and sponsoring products and whatever. Through high school, which that's crazy, and he's like, I don't want to go to school. I want to go work for Justin and learn, which I think you're learning a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be looking at this if it wasn't for you.
Like he's looking at a 7 unit right now or whatever, and like and I'm gonna share. I want people around me to succeed, right?
I'm teaching stocks in class, and and Ryder's sitting in there on Robinhood app, and he's buying and selling stocks while I'm teaching.
Perfect. That's the real life experience.
Hey Ryder, why don't you just come up here and show everybody what you're doing?
So I guess, and what we're going to kind of get into, Ryder, or who came up with the question? Was that you, Ryder?
It was him.
Oh, that was you?
Well, I thought we should add some content in there. I said, what are your thoughts on financial literacy? What kind of mindset or ideas should kids have? What kind of minds? And the kids are all different. Some are going to be entrepreneurial. Some are good. And how am I to teach entrepreneurship? Because I've never started or finished a business. Like, you know what I mean? Yep. And then, so what should kids know when they leave high school?
Well, and I think the main thing too about money, it doesn't even matter if you're an entrepreneur necessarily. Some of the things I think probably do, but a lot of the things about money, it doesn't matter if you're an entrepreneur or a teacher or a basketball coach or whatever you're full time, a painter, a property manager. It doesn't matter. Like the rules of money, I think the rules of money that I throw out here tonight that we're going to talk about, I think that applies to everybody, and everybody should live by these rules. Because
your perspective of the world's a little different than how I look at the world and how I look at my money.
I agree. I agree, but I guess so. Then it depends what your goals are with money.
There you go.
Right, but in my opinion, it's not the money. It's what money represents is the freedom and the options. And so I feel like ultimately that's ultimately what everyone ends up wanting at some point in life is freedom and options. And ability to probably give
Some
back.
want it sooner.
Right. Some want it sooner, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. All right. So the question was top 10 things 18-year-olds should know about money. And I'm just going to change it and basically say, 18-year-olds, but in my opinion, once again, everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody, not just like because this is the thing too, is you went back and talked about entrepreneurs earlier. 99% of entrepreneurs don't look at money the way I look at money, and I feel don't understand money correctly. And that could be like maybe me being arrogant or something. I'm not being arrogant. I truly believe it. So
Your next book, Financial Literacy for Everyone.
yeah, I think that'd be cool. Let's write a book. Let's write another book. So, all right, how do we want to start this? What do we want to do?
I say we let the guests read his first one.
So
All
the
right.
first one, well, I have this kind of foundation in my mind, or this idea in my mind where there's got to be a foundation, right? That you have the basic knowledge, and then you need to build the castle. And that you can see that, and you saw my list probably earlier.
No, I didn't.
No,
So I don't want to see it.
And the castle is savings, investing,
Yep.
and then you need to fortify it, and that's where you come in with the insurance. So like I want to give students, and I think you probably had that one in my class. You saw I tried to build the foundation. I had lots of guest speakers, lots of experts come in along, and I built the curriculum. So I tried to hit all those foundational things, and then we talked about, okay, now we want to save and invest, right? And save and invest are two different things, and they based on your goals, and then fortify. But part of the foundations is having a good job, keeping a good job, maintaining your reputation in that job. So employment skills and communication I put down as like number one. Find, keep, and grow your skills.
For sure.
And so that was my number one.
Number one
thing.
is fine. Say number one again.
It was I would call it employment skills.
Employment skills. I like the first thing you said better. What was it? You said
Find, keep, and grow your skills.
find, keep, and grow your skills. I would agree with that because so I have this is outside of just money, but this is just like my 5 general rules. And my first one, like when people say, hey, what are just your 5 general rules that have gotten you like success or whatever? And the first one that's on there is learn. Right, and I mean, really, that's kind of what you're doing there.
Invest in yourself.
And what I mean by learn is invest in yourself. Part of the learning is getting and obtaining those skills and putting those things to work. But my first one, just straight up money, is cash flow is king.
Sounds like Robert Kiyosaki.
Cash flow is 100% king, and I would rather have cash flow. So some of the things and I knew this was gonna be interesting. I didn't know exactly how this was gonna like turn, whatever. Because some of the things on my list, some of the things are actually like number 3 might sound the same as number 7, but the way that I try to teach people is I'll try to attack it from multiple ways. So sometimes my lists are like some people will get it, be like, dude, actually that was the same one that you just said before, but another person won't realize that's the same one, but because it connected to them differently.
Yeah.
So my first one is just cash flow is king. And what I mean by that, you got to find a way to have money coming in, right?
So ours do they come together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You got to find a way to have money coming in, and cash flow is more important than building off this a little bit. Cash flow is more important than cash sitting in your bank account to me. Which more of my answer to that, they kind of build on each other a little bit. So
That's
more of
where
my answer to that
that's
is
where
money.
the entrepreneur versus employee.
But I don't agree because even employees can have cash flow. My mother-in-law is an employee. She's got cash flow because
I wasn't talking about the cash flow. I was talking about like the money in the bank account. Like people that are employed want to keep safety there, right? Safety is really important to them. So they have that emergency fund.
Well, right.
So like that's
Okay,
where my
but what's an
brain goes when they
emergency
say
fund?
that.
Like 3 months though, or
That's
which
a good amount for a lot of people.
But really it shouldn't be. It really shouldn't be because if it is, that means either they're overextended, and they have a spending problem, where they're buying things that they necessarily don't need and they can't afford to save the 3 months. I would just leave it at that. I mean, I'm not saying everybody, but I'm gonna go on a limb and say 90%, 95%. That's the main problem. You know how many more pairs of shoes someone that's making $40,000 a year has than I do? A lot of them. A lot of people making $40,000 a year have more pairs of shoes than I do. Because I'm like, I don't. So
I've heard that once about some people, like they could care less about their shoes. They're more worried about like how they're going to get
Well,
the cash flow.
well, if you're worried-
I've
if
heard
you're-
stories like that before.
But that's how it should be in my mind. Because if you focus on your money and you focus on cash flow, soon it doesn't matter if you buy a $50 pair of shoes every month, $100 pair of shoes every month, because you have cash flow coming in to pay for it.
Okay. I know.
But that's just cash flow's king. That was my number one. So okay, what was your
So
number two?
ours were actually pretty similar. Cause I mean,
I'd agree.
to have employment skills, so you keep that cash flow coming in, or entrepreneurial skills. My second one, everyone's always saying they in my class, my students are like, I should have this class because I want to learn how to do taxes. I'm like, I don't want to. Like that's a really hard thing to teach a high schooler, right? It's a very complex thing to blanket everyone with, and I'm lucky to have lots of good experts that come in and talk about them. But I think kids should know, what are they paying for in taxes? Where is that money going? More than necessarily like how to do their taxes. They can pay someone to do their taxes and probably do it a lot better and save them a lot of money.
Yep.
But what are you, like they're like Social Security, Medicare, like is it going to be like all those things that go with there?
So you're talking like more from a mindset of
Understanding where your money's going.
okay, so understanding that just because you're getting paid. So this is a conversation we just had about like what it costs me to actually employ you.
Right.
Like you're like, wait, you have to pay tax. I'm like, yeah, I got payroll tax, dude. I pay. So like on what you pay, on what I pay you, I'm also paying payroll tax.
And you
Obviously-
passed my class?
Obviously, I pay
Well,
taxes.
well,
But the payroll
but I
tax,
mean,
you have to
people
pay
don't
the extra
realize-
6.2%.
Yeah,
Social
I don't even
Security
know if
and
it's 7.5. Yes,
it's
6.2,
6.2 and
whatever it is.
1.45 for Medicare.
And it's like, so like people don't realize that, and so I think, and I don't know if this is what you meant with it, but I think this goes to as well, being aware of like because you have a $40,000, $50,000 a year job, you're not walking home with 40 or 50, so you can't go out and just spend 40 or 50.
Well, you have to budget for your net income.
But I guess being employed is a little bit different too, because that's coming out of the check right away most of the times versus like when you're an entrepreneur, you don't have that necessarily coming out of your check right away. You got to save up. Like your mom, she's got being a realtor, she's got to save up for her taxes. She probably puts X amount aside per check she gets because if it's set up the way most real brokers are set up. So my number two, a true asset pays you cash each month, quarter, or a year. So this goes to the standpoint of people not truly understanding what an asset is.
This is what I told you, that ours are going to be totally different based on our mindsets.
It's because
Yeah.
people are like, my golf clubs are an asset. Like, no, like I can go sell them for $2,500. Dude, yes, technically, like on the if you actually had like,
the definition.
yeah, if you want to put and go and count like each golf club and each cracker you have in your cabinet, like okay, you got $2 worth of crackers. You're gonna put that as an asset, really? Like, you know what I mean? So, to me, a true asset pays you, and I guess my list also is talking from someone. This is about money, so it's talking about someone who wants to build a lot of wealth, right?
Mm-hmm.
But a true asset pays you cash each month, quarter, or a year. If it's not paying you, it's not a true asset.
That was number two.
That's number two.
I'm in
for me.
taxes and you're in assets.
Yep.
My third one
I love the taxes one from a little bit different standpoint, and maybe we'll get there in a little bit. But
Okay. Money mindset was my third one. I think they need to know their strengths and their weaknesses in, like, are they a hoarder of money? Are they, like, they walk in Quick Trip and they can't control themselves? And do they need to maybe not go into Quick Trip? I think that they have to understand what they're, and this is a foundational thing, understand who you are. Just like personality kind of thing. Like, I learned a lot from Dale Carnegie and How to Win Friends. Like, if I read that book and I looked at myself, I said, oh man, like, why do I always correct people when they're wrong? Right? And so, like, this thing, when I go into Quick Trip, I got to check myself because that place can be dangerous. You know, I know that I have a problem there. So, like, what's my money mindset when I go to certain things?
we talked about this not too long ago. I'll go into Jimmy John's. Like 6 years ago, I'd go into Jimmy John's, and by then I'd already done well in my apartment. I'm like, man, I invested $20,000 in this apartment. It's worth X now. Like, I'm spending $6 on this Jimmy John's subs. That means 6 years from now, I'm gonna have X dollars less. That's what you're talking about, though.
That is true.
Because I literally still think that way. Every single thing that I'm thinking about opportunity cost, and it's like to the point where like it can be like negative where like it gets that. But that's what I had to do to like get to where I'm at and to where I'm going.
But you got to also balance. I'm not going to be here in 6 years.
That's true.
And you got to still live
true.
in the moment a little. And
Yeah, I agree,
And
but-
have that Jimmy John's here and there.
No, I agree. I
Yeah.
do. I have Jimmy John's a lot, don't I?
Yeah, you do. I do too, though. I mean,
But-
Well, it's close.
yeah, it is.
But that mindset though around money for sure. Like being aware of yourself and being able to like, do I really need that right now? Like really? Do I really need that extra pair of shoes? Do I really need that macaroni and cheese and the 2 burgers from Quick Trip every time I go through there? Or can I like make a burger at home for, So and it adds up, and this kind of leads in. So this kind of leads into number 3 for me. It's don't save money, stash cash to invest. And what I mean by that is, I will probably defer with 90% of people that come through your class, and probably would get in arguments with them if we really debated stuff. But banks aren't actually out there for you, Ryder.
I know.
The money, like them promoting like you buying a home, it's all stuff that's making the bank rich.
Well, and they always come. I have great bankers that come in, and like they use the word like certificate deposit, and they call it an investment, and
no,
like that's saving. That's the
not,
saving
yeah.
portion,
But
and they mean it. They're doing their job.
So when I'm talking about, when I say number 3 is don't save money, stash cash to invest. So what the difference is like a saving mindset thinks that they can save their way to retirement, save their way to their goals, save their way to financial freedom, when really you have to just sit that cash aside for right now. Not save for the future, but set that cash, stash that cash with the mindset of, I'm going to put this to work. I'm going to invest this into an asset that pays me cash each month, so that I have cash flow, which cash flow is king, right? So my list is kind of building on itself right here. But that's don't save money just to save money. Stash cash to invest it later.
All right. And so now my 4th one is know the rules of money and understand how banks work, and financial institutions will say credit unions, banks. And like, for example, like I think the kids should know if they have fraud in their account that they have 60 days to make sure that that's taken care of or it's gone. So keep an eye on your bank statements.
Yeah, reconciling your account.
Understand and versus or. Like
Yeah.
we always make a joke, and when the bankers are in, when they talk about and versus or in an account, that if you're dating someone, you decide it's a romantic thing to have a bank account together, and you break up, they could just take your cash because you have it shared together. Like understand those little rules. Understand POA. Understand POD. Like the banks that I have come in, they do a really good job of educating my kids on those types of rules to make sure and help them to understand how loans work, because they need to be exposed to all these different things. And I have really good people that come in, and I just think they need to know. You got to know the rules of the game if you're going to play the game.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, a shared account and stuff, I guess, yeah, if you're getting down to that basic, for sure. I mean, it's important to know if you don't, because some people just straight up no. Like, if, I was just going to have, but if something happens, we'll just let them split it. No, they could take money and run. I mean, that's important to know, I guess. I never really thought about that way.
I mean, my next one is it's going to jump up there, but it's interest. Understand how interest, and that's 5 for me, but understand how interest works and how the bank makes their money. Understand that interest right now is probably on a savings account 0.04, on a CD it might be money market's probably about 0.10.
I don't even know what those are.
A CD might be 0.5, and like if you go online, you can get way higher of an interest rate on a non-brick and mortar bank.
So you're just talking about interest rate as far as what you can get coming in.
Understand, right? You got compound interest on your savings and investing versus simple interest on loans.
So then, number 4 for me.
So I jumped ahead there.
No, that's fine. So number 1 was cash flow is king. Number 2 for me was a true asset pays you cash each month, quarter, or year. Number 3 was don't save, stash cash to invest. Number 4, so once you're stashing that cash, trade money for assets as soon as possible. So what my mindset is, and Ryder, you get all this good stuff from me like every day. I shouldn't even have to pay you to work around here, because like you'll get $100 million education like sitting here every day.
Wow.
Well, it's true, because I
think he's negotiating right now.
I'm saying this. I'm like, God damn, Ryder hears this every day from me. He hears all this stuff every day from me. So trade money for assets as soon as possible. Money in, and then money out as fast as possible. Keep it spinning. So I think of it. I keep like you spin a basketball on a finger. That's how fast I want cash in and out of my bank account. So that's what cash flow is king, right? So I get cash coming in as fast as I can. The moment I have, whether it's 50, 100, or 200, or 400, or 600, or 8, I as fast as I can write as big a check as I can that takes me to zero. But I put it into an asset that's going to start paying me every single month that also can appreciate.
That's where our mindsets are different, because that would make me nervous.
Well,
that makes me nervous, like the Packer game this weekend.
I mean, and I'm not saying that everyone has to play to that extent, but at some point people have to. So so here's the problem with saving and hoarding, right?
You lose value.
A saver and hoarder is scared to let go. You gotta let it fly. And this is gonna come up later where I talk about something else with like, I don't actually have my money. I've got your money and you've got my money. You gotta let it go, right? Now what I mean by that is, Noah's got my money because I want to go buy a $30 million property and I need investors, right? So I'm gonna go talk. I need it, right? I need your money. It's my money now. My money now, right? Well, it's my money for a real short amount of time, and then I give it to the bank so we can go buy this property. I keep cash moving,
And then I hopefully am rewarded.
yes, right. So then it's the property's money, but not for long, because the property money, it comes to the entity that our investors are in, right? Well, it's the entity's money, not for long. It goes to the investors, right? And now most of our investors, they've done 4 deals with us, 5 deals with us, because they understand that they need to keep the money spinning. They need to stash money, and then they need to put that money to work as fast as they can. So it's money in as fast as you can, money out as fast as you can. In as fast as you can, out as fast as you can. And that's what cash flow is as well. So that was my number 4, trade money for assets ASAP. Money in, money out as fast as possible, keep it spinning.
So my 5, we were talking interest, but
And it doesn't have to start, this is the thing too. For
What's that?
some people, because you said it makes me nervous, right? But to go do that,
Yeah.
right? But that doesn't mean that someone would have to start and it would have to be everything for them.
But most people
But
live
people have
paycheck
to
to
start.
paycheck, so
Right.
that's where the nervousness comes in.
Right. But I'm telling you, when you're living paycheck to
95% of
paycheck,
people,
when you're living paycheck to paycheck, though, they're doing the same thing, just on the wrong stuff. Just on the
Exactly.
wrong
Yeah.
stuff.
That's a
They
good-
got money coming in, money coming out. It's just on the wrong
But
stuff.
if they're happy, it's not the wrong stuff.
Well, right, but are they really happy? Like, are those freaking Kanye shoes really making you happy?
Do you have Kanye shoes?
Yeezys?
I don't. I don't.
You had some fancy
Alright,
shoes I thought might be Yeezys.
alright.
I don't have Yeezys.
But I mean, are they? Is that stuff that you're buying? Is that really truly making you happy? Is that truly
I
getting you
think
where
it
do you
depends
want
on
to
the
be?
person.
Right.
I think it does.
Yeah, it goes back to that mindset thing. Yeah. And
I
as
think
I was talking about compound interest, like today I'm talking to my students.
See, I view
about
money. I view money
investments.
straight up as a tool. That's it.
So we're gonna get to investments here eventually.
Yeah.
And so, like, I guess we're gonna have probably differing philosophies on mutual funds, index funds, and things like
I
that.
have
also.
0.
Okay, so what? And I'm teaching kids.
Right.
Let's get investing early,
For sure. Yeah.
and let's get the ball rolling.
Yep.
And the earlier we can get that compound
For
interest
sure.
working,
For sure.
sooner.
Yep.
That was part of my part number 5, which was the interest thing. Is like compound interest is like the thing for us. But I'm looking from that employee, and that's the employee perspective. Like,
Right, but I have compounding interest too, because these properties are growing, or the cash
It's
flow
a
grows.
different
Like we
idea.
pay down debt, it's interest.
it's a different way of looking at it.
Yeah, I mean it's
Yeah.
because it's my stuff is growing every single month, or we're paying down debt every single month, and is that there's more margin there, and there's more.
It's just interesting
It's
to
just-
see how 2 different minds can look at money differently.
Mhm.
You know,
I told my sister I'd give her $100 cash up front if she agreed to put $100 into the S&P 500 for the next 30 years. She denied.
she denied.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying like someone that's young, like I had a Roth IRA because like when growing up, like I started mowing lawns and pulling weeds at the veterinary clinics, and like having to change light bulbs and like dust and sweep and all this stuff that I hated to do. I mean, I enjoyed it, but my dad put me to work, and so like I would make money, and like by the time I was maybe like 20, I had like $4,000 because I had to save it, right, and invest it. So I had like this Roth IRA or whatever. Or mutual funds or whatever, but I ended up liquidating that. I paid the penalty, paid the tax, liquidated it to put it into my first building, and it's no brainer. No, like look at the money, what that $4,000's worth now compared to what it would be if it was still in there. No brainer that I put it into real estate. And I'm not saying everyone should be in real estate, but it's just getting your money to work for you as soon as
The
possible.
knowledge is important though too.
Yeah.
The knowledge and
Yep.
understanding. Like you've read a lot of books to get you to that point, and talk to a lot of people to get to that point, and not a lot of people
And-
maybe have those connections or know what to read
Yeah.
or what to trust.
For sure. And for some people though, like, mutual funds, all that stuff is a good option, but it's like, now let's go play out, like let's go all in then on it. Let's give it so you have time, right? So you can start young, right? And get it multiplying and get it going, so you have that money working for you. And then like when you have assets too, you just gotta be able to weather storms. Like if you got 401k and you're like, oh, I could never do that because But really, like in March when COVID happened, your 401k got cut in half or whatever, right? Or what? I don't know if it's a
Well,
401k.
just
or
for a
whatever.
short. I mean, you got to be ready for the roller coaster,
Right. So
Yeah.
that's the same thing that I'm doing in real estate. So when I write a X dollar check into a property, I understand that property for a 2-year, 3-year span could go down, but I make sure that we're buying stuff so that when they go down, we still can make it through. We're buying conservatively enough that we're still making it through to get to the other side. I never want to have to be forced to sell something, because then if I ever had to be forced to sell something when it's not right to sell or get rid of it or whatever, that's where you're gonna be. That's where you get crushed. So that's why I'm less scared to. But everyone's different.
No, it's
And that's
true.
why some people
That's why
give
the
me the money.
conversation's interesting. That's why I said
Mhm.
let's make a top 10 list,
For sure.
because
For sure.
we're going to go in different directions. But I think the goal is that we do something that we're passionate about and then live the life that we want to live, like we talked about, and eventually
I
have
agree.
that freedom.
I
Still.
agree.
So you're on 5?
That was 5 for me. So where are you
So
at now?
6,
You going
I
to
have down, these kids need to understand, or people need to understand, how credit history and credit score impact their overall
Mhm.
picture of life.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
So this is where you defer with Dave Ramsey, because Dave Ramsey believes that credit score is not important because you should never borrow money.
That's where I defer with Dave Ramsey. Like
And me too.
I think that like if someone like Ryder, hopefully you have a credit card.
I wish I would have
and
started even earlier, like even younger.
So I couldn't agree with this part more. This is one that I agree on big time. I don't have this one on my list really.
like an 18-year-old, it's because you can't have a credit card until you're 18 and have to have a job. They have all these restrictions now, and so like you have to before you can sign a contract to be 18, Ryder. And then, but now you spend $25 on it a month.
Mhm.
Go out to Jimmy John's 5 times, 4 times,
Or you
whatever.
just start with
and
whatever
then you
you're
pay it
already
off
buying.
every month.
Right. Or you just start with whatever you're buying right away. Like anyways, like gas you're gonna buy anyways for your car.
Quick Trip.
Like you're gonna buy groceries anyways. Put it and pay it. Don't go to the store and buy something that you can't pay off.
I
right
try
away.
not to teach people to use credit cards, and we're going to get to that later, but to buy things that you're not going to have after a month, like
Yeah.
groceries. I try to teach them not to,
See, and that's where I defer because I'm like, okay,
unless you're going to pay it off every month.
Right. So I completely defer. Like buy anything that you're normally gonna buy as long. So like I put everything on credit card.
It's a tool.
Everything, and so then when I wrote this check that I write into a property, what I'm doing though on the back end is so like I have 2 different credit cards, and they're always offering me loan opportunities. I max them out. I pull it out. So once again I keep the cash spinning. So I write the check in. But now I want to be sitting on some cash because if there's another, if I have to feed one of my other businesses, we need to buy 6 ladders, so we have people starting preparing paint or whatever, right? Need to buy something. I want to have the cash. I don't care if it's costing me 6.5% to 10% for a little while. Because this is the thing: whenever you need cash, no one's gonna lend to you. Whenever you don't need cash, people are gonna lend to you. So when I don't necessarily need the cash and people are offering me, yep, here, take it. I'll take this for now.
All right.
So I've actually, and I'm not.
I never thought of it like that.
Yeah,
No,
yeah. I'm not telling everyone just go get a credit card loan, but credit is important to have so that you can have a $35,000 line at this credit card, a $75,000 line here, 100, whatever.
Well, if you want to rent an apartment now, I mean, I would assume.
Oh yeah,
check
you need
credit.
credit. Yeah,
we need credit for a cell phone.
Yeah,
You
that's
need,
so basic
but,
living. Yes.
You know,
100%.
one of my auto dealers comes in. He talks about the impact of credit and how much that can double the cost of a car if you're borrowing money.
Mhm.
Like if your credit's like in a 400 or 500 range, like you might want that $25,000 truck, but
Yep.
you're gonna have to get that loan for 7 years. And car dealerships are pushing
Yep.
longer loans now, and like the longer that loan is, the more you're gonna pay. So understanding how
Yep.
debt works.
Yep.
But that if you're down there in credit history, and it could be there could be good people that had train wrecks in their life, health
Yep.
issues. It could
Yep.
be bad things that happened, and to have that credit score, be able to learn how to fix that too,
Mhm.
to save yourself money in many ways.
Yep. Yeah, credit's important. You need to have credit. For
But
sure.
and we creeped into my number 7, by the way, which was credit card's a tool.
For sure.
And you just gotta know how to use
Yep.
that tool to make it effective for you.
Yep.
Kind of like anything that you would do to build a house.
Yep.
If you don't know how to use it, obviously you're
Yep.
not gonna do a good job.
Yep. See, and then like I use credit cards all the time, but I've never once paid on something that I've put on a credit card. I've never once paid any interest on it ever. Now, obviously, the loans that I grab from the credit card companies that I get, obviously I pay interest on that because I pay them back. Whether it's over 36 months, and I pay it back. A lot of times I'll pay it back early, because I just whatever. But I use it. I mean, there was an investment that I made, and I actually I took, it was $35,000 from a credit card. I had to pay 11% interest a year. I put it into the investment, and what I put into the investment, it basically within 2 months started paying me enough plus $200 a month to make the payment on the loan. The loan was paid off in 3 years. So for another 2 years, that investment kept paying me when there was no debt.
Yeah.
Right. And then that investment went and sold, and it was like 3x, 4x of the initial amount. So like that's where I've used credit smartly, but I'm also not like stupid where it's like I also in that situation I also had other income coming in that okay, if this were to fail, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's part of it too is sometimes people have to evaluate their risk profile, right? How much time we have?
I got about 20 minutes.
20 minutes?
Yep.
Sometimes people have to evaluate the risk profile and where they're at right now. But at some point, especially when you're like younger than like 40, like take risks. Take some risks.
But like we're sitting there on 7 with my 7 and credit cards. Like I have kids that come in and say, "Well, I can't get a credit card because my parents were not good with credit cards. They tell me they're evil."
Yeah.
You know, and like, well, if you shouldn't have a credit card if you can't control yourself.
Yeah, I agree.
If you can't control yourself, you should not have
agree.
that tool.
I agree.
So you're on 6.
All right. So my number 6 is wherever you live will be an expense, so rent.
I was going to ask you about that. You're still renting.
I'm still
Are
renting.
you renting from yourself?
I'm not renting for myself. I'm still renting.
Because that was a goal, I thought, wasn't it?
Well, yeah. I'll be renting for myself soon.
Okay.
So.
All right. We talked about that last time you were in my class.
But wherever you live will be an expense. We had this conversation the other day. Once again, Ryder gets access to this all the time. I think you need to pay me the salary. Where's my salary?
Hey, so does everyone who's watching the podcast.
We take up space. We consume crap. We consume electricity. We consume water. We waste water. We waste food. We take up space. We buy a lot of junk. So now our junk is taking up space. Wherever we live, we poop, right? We're a mess when you really think about it, right? Wherever we live, that is an expense. There's no way around it. So it's like, okay, well, what if I buy a 4-unit and I live in one of the units? Well, if you weren't living in one of those units, that unit would be collecting $700,000, $800,000, $900,000 a month of rent.
That goes back to like number 3 of your list.
So wherever you live is an expense.
I think what he's saying is you should live with your parents forever, Ryder.
Well,
Dude,
that's what I'm doing at this rate. So, but what I'm saying is you can get a 3.5 FHA if you live in one unit, which might be more beneficial than living at home if you don't have the money to put it down.
I'm not saying it's not, but I'm not even saying that. So this is the problem because people always try to justify it. I'm not trying to justify anything other than get people to acknowledge wherever you live is an expense and cash out. Yes, it can be used as a tool in that situation to get you a head start in investing. So yes, I think that yes, if that's how you have to buy the property, you absolutely buy the property that way to get your foot in the door, right? But I'm trying to get people to acknowledge wherever you live is an expense. Wherever you live is an expense. It's not going to pay you every single month. That actual space that you're in. Now the 4-unit, right? The 4-unit is going to pay you in total probably still. But that 1 unit, it would pay you more if you weren't living there. People are like, well, I'd still have that expense somewhere else. Exactly, you just said it for me. I'd still have that expense somewhere else. Wherever I live, that is an expense.
But you want to bring that expense down.
Yeah, I mean,
your cost of living you want to bring down.
For sure, yeah. Well, I mean, so from when I'm married now, right? And so like the place I rent is different than the place I rented from 2000, 15 to 2019. Like we live on the lake. We rent. Thank you. Yeah. We rent on the lake. So like it's a different. Like it's different, but it's like okay, the rent is X, whatever, because wherever I live is an expense. People we rent from live in California. So I'm not renting for myself. And even if I was renting for myself,
and I thought that was so strange the first time I heard it like in class. I was like,
I'll be talking more about that.
That's thinking different.
Yeah.
Like that's the stuff we're talking about. Like when we look at these lists, we think different. Yep. But it's important, like that kids understand that there's all these different perspectives. But there are some foundational things about understanding the rules to money.
For sure.
Yeah. So where are we at? 7 there?
Yeah, you on 7?
I did 7 already. So
you did.
That's right. You're jumping ahead. My 1 through 7 were basically the foundation. Like when I talked about foundation, castle, fortify.
Yeah.
My next 2 are castle, and the last one's fortify. But what do you got for 7?
My 7 is so building off of 6. Owning your own home is not what will make you rich or wealthy.
This is so true. But we loved like that was like one of my goals growing up. I wanted my own home.
Which
right?
is fine. It's
then-
fine to want your own home. It's fine, but you have to recognize that 99.8% of the people that buy the home, that's not what's going to make them rich or wealthy.
Well, I agree. 100%.
And now I'm
Yeah.
going to buy a home and I'm going to rent for myself, and that's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah, we don't got time for that one.
We don't have time for that one. But so I'm not saying had the home been the first thing that I bought, wouldn't be where I'm at financially or with my businesses today.
Okay. 8. I'm on 8.
I think that's why it's important when building wealth. I think that part's important because
Yeah, I
I
agree.
see like
Once you
in
don't
20
keep-
years, I don't see a problem with you, or even 10, I guess.
Even
Even now.
4 years ago.
Yeah.
Fucking I mean, I had bankers, I had people that, dude, you could be living in an X dollar house. I don't care.
Well, you have goals in mind.
Right.
And so if you have goals in mind, you're willing to withstand maybe what some people would call hardships or things.
I mean, a
They're not-
$900
they're
a
not-
month apartment was not a hardship.
Well, but some people would call it that. Like they want it now. And so therefore it's not what they want, so therefore it's a hardship.
I mean,
You know what I'm
might
saying?
be dissatisfied, but I think there's a difference between I think that's an issue with America right now too. Is like hardship to me is like you wake up and you don't have freaking running water.
But
That's
people,
hardship.
But people want to land on the top of the mountain. They don't want
That's
to climb
hardship.
it.
Right. I agree with that. I agree with that for sure. Yeah.
A lot of people. And I'm not going to say everybody.
But that's why this is one of my rules on money. Like if we're talking about money, like anything I'm gonna do, and like if we're talking money or sports, I'm gonna do it to the best of my ability. And that I view money. This is how money is done to the best of the ability that money can be done at.
But you've transferred those skills that I knew you as a sophomore
I agree,
in high school,
yeah.
and you've transferred
Sure.
them into something that you're also passionate about.
But I'm talking about even if someone just wants to. I'm not even talking about someone that wants to build an empire. I'm talking about someone. I don't know what the example would be. I mean, everyone could have more money, because if they didn't need it for themselves, they would know what to do with it. Give it away, whatever, right? I feel that it's people's duty to go out and perform on this stuff. It's not about the actual money. It's what money allows you to do.
But you get great reward out of the accomplishments also.
For sure.
And
100%.
And the drive is what
100%.
keeps you going every day.
100%. It's not the actual money that keeps me going. No, it's not. Because
I
wouldn't.
the drive
I
and
would-
and like the setting your goals and moving forward.
Yes, I agree with that. But who doesn't want to be able to, like, how many times you hear people say, I wish I could go on that vacation? Well, why don't you? I don't have the time, I don't have the money. Well, those are both money problems. Time and money are usually both money problems.
But people want a lot of things, but they're not willing to change.
Right. So cash flow is king, and keep that change in your mindset.
So we already talked about my number 8, which was just investments. Like I want kids to understand how stocks work, how mutual funds work, how investments work, and that's the castle part. Like starting to build, like having things so that they can plan for the future and be prepared for the future if they want freedom eventually.
Mm-hmm.
So that was my 8.
For sure. And it is, I mean, compounding interest is crazy, because it's whether you take, $100 a month and start investing. I mean, it's crazy if you take $100 a month and you just start putting that away, even if it's returning you 6% a year, and you start doing that at 18, it's crazy what you have by the time you're 65. I don't know the exact number off my head, but I mean, I've seen,
$250 in 30 or 40 years at $100 a month.
At 6%, you double your money.
At 10%.
At 10%, you double your money every 7.2 years.
Yeah.
Every what?
Every 7.2 years. The rule of 72 was on my honorable mention. Do you know the rule of 72?
I'm trying to do it faster than the rule of 72.
Oh, okay. Well,
so I think I know the understanding of it, but
well, you basically take 72 divided by how many, like, say you could get 7% or 10%.
yeah.
You take 72 divided by that 10, you get 7.2 years to
Got
double
you.
your
Okay.
money.
Yeah. I got you. Yes, I do know that. I do. I do my math differently, because I just know the straight up math to get there versus doing the rule like that. But yes, I respect that rule. I think that's important.
But you could also figure, like, you have a kid that's just born and you want to double $10,000 over 18 years.
This
Well,
is the return you
I need
get.
this return.
Yep.
72 divided by 18.
Yep. So wait, was that your number?
8 was investments,
Okay, it was investments.
which we already talked about. So
Yeah. No. So number 8, how much time you got?
I got about 7 minutes.
7 minutes. So my number 8 is so we kind of talked about this a little bit before. You have someone else's money and someone else has your money. Network and transact.
Networking isn't. Oh, jeez.
So let me say this really slowly.
Say it slowly.
You have someone else's money, and someone else has your money. Network and transact.
We talked about this a little earlier.
Yeah.
And that was a
I brought
spinning
it-
thing.
Yeah.
All right. See, I was with you.
Yeah, no, I know.
You know, okay.
But
I'm learning.
that's so key to understand. I know that's over so many people's head, and they're like, "What is he talking about?" Like the actual money that I have in my account, not my money, because it's gonna go. It's got for me to grow it, I have to be willing to give that money up. So the moment I get it, it's not really my money anymore. I need to realize that. I go to Jimmy John's Subs, like it's not my money anymore. And now the moment I give it to them, it's not their money anymore either, because it's gonna go somewhere.
Somewhere else.
But people, the wrong mindset is this is my money and I'm gonna hoard it, and that's the fastest way, in my opinion, that money will not grow, or economy will not grow, or business will not grow. The moment the business says I'm done spending money, the economy shuts down, right?
Yeah.
The moment the consumer says this is my money, I'm not spending any of it, the economy shuts down, right? So you have someone else's money and someone else has your money. Network and transact. Because when the transaction happens, a lot of people made a lot of money on the transaction that happened today. When transactions happen, a lot of people make a lot of money.
True.
And that's also cash flow, because when transactions happen, cash is moving.
Yep.
So the people that, once again, have are successful with money, or in the money area, they understand that.
They're all intertwining. It's back to number one, cash is
Yeah.
king, right?
Right.
Yeah. Is that cash is king, number one?
Yeah. Cash
Yeah.
flow is king. Cash flow is king. 9.
Well, I guess I'm thinking cash. Okay, 9. Well, I had down understand how to rent and how to go through that process.
Yep.
And we have you come in and speak about that, and then understand what the process of buying a house is,
Mm-hmm.
and how the realtor works in that interaction. I'm not saying it's important to buy a house, but I'm saying it's important to understand the systems that are in place so that you are exposed to that as a young person and are able to make decisions going forward, how that could work.
Mm-hmm.
And not everybody has that.
Yeah, Mrs. Radke probably hates me.
Yeah, well, it's two conflicted sides, because one, she's selling houses, and the other, I could be a landlord in a couple months, so there's both sides. Do you buy or do you rent? And I do oppose you a little bit. Not fully, but like, I do.
Then go buy your house tomorrow instead of buying the 7 unit.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I agree
Because this is a money topic.
I agree with renting when building wealth and when you're getting started, but I think down the line, I think putting money towards something that you're building equity and you can take it
It's
out.
an emotional asset. Dude, I have more equity in my businesses and my properties than I could ever take out from a single family home. I could not buy a single family home big enough.
I appreciate how much he's challenging you.
I could buy a $30 million home, and you wouldn't be able to pull out as much equity as we can in the businesses. And so from a
Maybe
money
not five.
standpoint, no. Like if it's a fixer-upper flipper to make money, yes, all day. That's different.
What if
We're
you live
talking
in
money. I'm not
years?
talking about emotional asset. There's a difference between emotion and like just hardcore straight up money rules.
I'm not saying put 20 down. I'm saying maybe you live in it for 3 years, do some renovations. You have the equity. Maybe it's worth a little bit more. Is that
Right,
more
but I went
beneficial than renting?
back and did the math on that. Had I done that, I would have missed out on the first 2 4 units I bought.
Right.
My opportunity cost on that,
Early on, when building wealth is the important part.
for sure.
Right.
But it's still not a wise money move to ever buy a home. It's not
Remember
a
that
wise
part at
move.
the beginning where I said you see people that you have the success that you want, and then you do what they do and replicate what they do, and then you have that.
He
success.
knows that's why he's not buying. That's why he's looking at a 7 unit instead of his own house. So he knows, at the heart of heart, he knows.
It's
get
emotional. It is
Yeah,
emotional.
and I'm not saying don't buy a house, but I'm saying like straight up money rules. Like that is a bank. That is
Live with your parents till you're 30.
The
Okay.
banks made the house, the American dream, buying a house. Why? Because that's how the banks make money.
Right. But you say, even when if I were to buy a 4 unit, live in 1 unit, what's the difference of you living in that unit?
You don't have
opposed to-
you don't have equity tied up. If the roof freaking breaks down, you don't have to worry about calling insurance and getting that whole ordeal sorted out. If your fridge breaks, you don't have $700 going out the door there. You calling the landlord. You're calling Spaulding Group, dude. My fridge broke, and I'm like, dang it. And we write another check, and Grand Appliance shows up with the
So you
fridge.
think there's a difference if you were to live in that 1 unit rather than, and then rather than rent that out and go live in a different or rent from a different person. Does that make sense?
No.
So say I buy a 4 unit and live in 1 unit.
Yeah.
Don't do
See,
that.
but that's a
with
no. I'm saying you can do that. But I'm saying wherever we live is an expense.
Right, I agree.
But now you personally owning a home is a more of a disadvantage than you living in one of your apartment units that you own. If you have a 7-unit apartment and you living in one is a better option than buying your own home.
Yeah, I agree. But
You're
I'm saying,
farther along in the thinking process than I am, because
Dude.
this whole conversation challenges my thinking.
It
But I'm
challenges.
saying,
It's
yeah.
not. I challenge 900. If you took 1,000 people, I'd probably disagree and get in a fight with 997 out of 1,000 about this. But then you look at the other two, and the other two are gonna have a net worth that's ginormous, probably.
Are you saying I'm not gonna have a good net worth?
I'm not saying that. No, I'm saying you
You just
are.
gotta slow down
I'm
your
saying you
progress.
are because you truly agree with me. Because right now you're not looking
I
at a
understand
house.
that.
You're gonna buy a 7-unit,
I
and
understand that.
you're saying I'm gonna live with my mom and dad.
Say my parents kicked me out though. Are you saying not to live in one of the units in that 7-unit?
No,
and
I'd
get
say
that from someone else?
live in that. I'd say live in that.
Okay, so you wouldn't say that. You'd say rather live in that.
No, I'd say live in that. But wherever you live, you need to recognize is an expense.
Yes, I understand.
But yeah, I'd say live in that. That's a better option than you renting from someone
You're
else.
almost better
That's-
off.
that's one
You're better
question.
off renting from your parents.
But
I'm not gonna live
now mine's my mindset. I know we're getting tight on time. My mindset was I didn't want to live in my own properties because they knew where I was at all times.
Right, they can come knock on your door and say, "Hey, come fix my fridge." Yeah.
So that's why I'm like, I'm not
Hours of
renting.
the day.
Someone's like, why don't you go live at Delavan? Why don't you go live at your properties in James? Dude, I do not want to live at where knocking on the door, midnight.
Yeah.
So, you're at 9.
Yeah, what are you at?
I got. That was my.
How much time
I
you
got
got?
about. I got about a few minutes.
All right.
So my 10. I'll just go my 10. Was insurance, like fortify the castle and protect the foundation that you've built. Like understand how car insurance works, understand how property insurance, understand renters insurance. So like
Oh, for
when
sure.
you're renting from somebody, like and the
can't
person
tell
next
ya.
door is smoking and
We're going after
Yep.
someone from right now for a lot of money that they should have had renters insurance, and then at least they should have had renters insurance, and they didn't. And
understand the different forms of life insurance so you can protect
Yep.
the people that you love.
for sure.
And then I had some honorable mentions. Like I think that students or people need to understand how economic indicators are they work and how they impact their money.
I agree.
And I had
I look at leading economic indicators every month.
and so like
Every
we should talk
third Thursday of
off
the month.
I would like to know what those indicators
Yeah.
are so I could talk about those in class, and then understand how death and money work. Understand that eventually the people you love that are older than you could be gone, and then how you're gonna know the process that you're gonna have to take.
Yeah.
And
We're
make
going
sure that
through
those
that
people
for
that
sure. We're-
that love you,
Yeah.
that are your grandparents, parents,
I
understand that they need to take care of the people behind them and make a plan so they don't break families up, right? Because the biggest arguments for families probably is over someone's wealth that was left behind or
For sure.
money that was left behind. So those
I
are the
agree.
things that I listed.
I agree with that. So my number 9 would be some assets come with debt, but no debt should come without an asset. And remember, my definition of an asset is it's bringing you cash every month, every quarter, or every year,
Can you read that again?
unless another asset's cash flow pays that debt. Right? So, okay, before I read it again, remember my definition of asset. Asset that I had as definition number 2 was a true asset pays you cash each month, quarter, or year. So my number 9, some assets come with debt, i.e. our real estate. We just took out $20 million in loans today.
But that debt is going to help you to add more assets.
So the assets in this scenario came with debt, right? So some assets come with debt, but no debt should come without an asset. AKA going back to like what you were talking about before, do I really need those, that thing from Quick Trip? Do I really need that toy? Do I really need that? Right? If I'm not going to debt for it, right?
But those assets also offset the debt.
But it's not an asset because it's not bringing the assets that people think are an asset. A car. Well, now a car's a little bit different because that like you need to be able to get. So like a car's a little bit different, but you shouldn't go crazy. But like, your house, like, there's no cash flow there. You're not getting paid every single month. Not an asset in my book.
Unless you rent to your kids.
So let me read this
Parents will have
again.
an asset then.
Some assets, now because there's more to it, right? Some assets come with debt, but no debt should come without an asset. Unless another asset's cash flow pays that debt. So the house that I'm going to buy, not only am I going to rent for myself, the rent that I'm going to pay, that's coming from a different asset's cash flow. Some assets come with debt, but no debt should come without an asset unless another asset's cash flow pays that debt.
It's like
I'm
a
a
tongue
rapper
twister.
now.
Yeah, how did you come up with that?
That's freaking right here.
Okay, so what's number 10? Then I gotta go.
You
That one lost me for a while there. I think I
you
might
get it
listen
though?
to this.
That's
Yeah,
might be the most important one right there. That might be that's super important.
I'll have to rewatch.
All right.
All right.
This one's important too. This one's important too because you can only cut number 10. You can only cut your expenses to 0, but your income can be infinite. So meaning what that means is, right? This has been my transition, right? For a long time my expenses were very close to 0 until I was like engaged, right? And then it changed a little bit and you spend a little bit more money or whatever. But I came to realize like it doesn't because now my income's up, right? Like income can go up forever. So at some point you can only cut out so much of what's in your life, right? So you can take the first 9 rules that I just said, and you guys were challenging me. It's like, well, but I want this and I want that, and my I need a little,
Say like that.
I need a
You did
home,
sound like that.
I need a home to
Yeah,
buy
yeah.
to put to sleep right at night. I need to own my
I
home.
can't live with my parents forever.
I need to own my
I'm just not gonna live anywhere.
like you, but at the same on the other end of it, like. At some point, you have to start enjoying some of it, right? But hopefully, you've done the first 9 things, so now it doesn't even matter. So now it's like, okay, go buy whatever, go buy a home. Okay, go buy a home.
Don't follow his directions then at that point, right? Like you're no.
I can live in my car.
Oh, that,
You can.
Would that make it an
See, but-
asset?
No, because wherever you
Rent out
live,
the back seats.
wherever you live. I mean, yeah.
Oh, that's right. Guys,
Offset-
bring profit or
offset
cash
no.
flow in quarterly.
Well, you can rent out the back seats. That works. So you can only cut your expenses to 0, but your income can be infinite. So like that, I mean, it's just you can always find ways. You truly can. I mean, there's been a million people with a million different backgrounds that have ultimately become financially well off. And so everyone, I truly believe, if they spend their time around the right people, you could choose to come here instead of going to college, right? Like spend their time around the right people. Like anyone can have an infinite income. It can always go up. There's no cap on what you can make. There's only so much you can cut out of your life.
Which means right now I got to cut out.
Yeah,
myself.
you do.
So
You
that
do.
was a good segue.
You do. You got anything?
Hey, thanks for having me.
You bet.
I appreciate it. I'm looking forward to you answering some of these questions that I saw in there.
Yeah.
He always forgets to answer.
Yeah, and well, what we can probably do is actually screenshot
Yeah, I'll
those,
screenshot.
and
I
we
do
can
like
put them into the
Eddie's
next
comment
show.
there. Eddie, I mean, I when I do conferences,
They did real quick. I did have a question come through. What's your prediction of the score of the Packer game this weekend?
I think they're gonna win by 3, and I think they're gonna score 30, 31-28.
Woo!
So
I got
and I think the Bears are still gonna be out of the playoffs.
I got 35-31
Bucks winning.
Packers.
Hey, thanks everyone.
35-31.
And what I was gonna say to Eddie on my way out here was because they said I wish I had a teacher like that in high school that taught them things like that. That's what like when I have parent teacher conferences like tonight. Before I came here, like most parents say, I wish I had that class.
Mhm.
I wish I learned this stuff before I got out there into the world. So, hey,
Sure.
thanks for having me, guys.
Awesome.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
brother.
Thank you. Cool. Well, thank you guys for joining us. If you're listening, watching on YouTube, would appreciate if you subscribe. If you're on YouTube right now, please subscribe. How many live people did we have?
10. We actually
Oh.
have 11 right now. We've had like 10.
If you're watching this on YouTube and you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. If you're listening, watching, would love if you could just share this with someone else who you think would get value out of it. If you don't think they're going to get value out of it and they're not into this type of thing, God, my hair looks greasy. I'm a mess. These closings, like, I'm like stressed out. I'm like, this closing last like 3 weeks has been crazy. But if you could just share this with someone who really would get value out of it, it'd be awesome. We're definitely looking forward to having more guests on. And I think next week I submitted, I told people to leave questions. I had a lot of questions again come in, so I got them still on my phone. So for next week, we will, we'll be back to some questions, and we'll end up having another guest at some point here. But have a great weekend. Go Packers, and enjoy it. Enjoy the time. Go out and crush some stuff. Take this advice. Use it. Implement it. Don't just learn stuff to sit there to learn more stuff, Use it. Implement it. Go out. Be successful. Be great. We'll talk to you later. All right.